Welcome everyone to Coin New Yen Review channel. Before we dive into today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so more people can discover us. Enjoy the show. One married Lee Ryan 6 years ago. She was once a daughter of heaven's favor, yet she unexpectedly fell into the dust. I stayed by her side, never abandoning her. At last her constellation muse rose to fame in a single stroke. The genius painter reclaimed her peak. A reporter asked her who the man in her paintings was. She smiled tenderly, saying he was the love of my life. That day, I received her divorce papers. The genius painter Lee Ryan returned with her constellation muse. Years later, she stood at the pinnacle again. At her exhibition, all her works sold for high prices, except for the most striking muse. It was a breathtakingly lifelike oil painting. Under the moonlight of Wrong, the lake shimmered with fragmented light. A youth in white stood against the wind, holding flowers. His smile captivated all beings. She said it was not for sale, worth more than 1,000 gold. A reporter asked her who the man in her paintings was. She smiled gently, saying he was the love of my life. That day, I received from Lee Ryan the divorce papers she sent me. The money and house were all mine. She left with nothing. I saw the live video online. I called her, saying congratulations. The exhibition was a great success. Her tone was cold, saying it had nothing to do with me. How could it have nothing to do with me? I raised my voice, questioning her. Weren't you leaving with nothing? The exhibition's earnings are marital assets too. We should settle accounts. She scoffed, calling me Fang Yuan, saying I was blinded by money. I sneered, saying money was more reliable than people. She was silent for a moment. Tomorrow, I'll have the lawyer send you a new agreement. I agreed readily, saying fine. From now on, we'd sever all ties. Before she could finish speaking, I hung up the phone, as if listening for one more second was a waste. It's hard to imagine. For months ago today, I was still praying to grow old with her. That day was our 6th wedding anniversary. On Valentine's Day, I secretly flew back from France, wanting to surprise Lee Ryan. When I reached the apartment building, I saw a youth carrying luggage, standing alone in the snow. His hands were red from the cold, yet his voice on the phone was full of joy. Guess where I am? I didn't hear what the other side said. The youth's eyes softened with a smile. Kunsheng said he missed me, so he came to see me. I recalled my college days with Lee Ryan in a long-distance relationship. When longing became unbearable, we'd do the same. Buy a ticket and rush to each other without hesitation. Moved by this scene, I took out my phone to call Lee Ryan. The next moment, I saw her emerge from the stairwell, running straight toward the youth, throwing herself into his arms. She held him tightly, as if catching a rare treasure. In the silent, snowy night, they kissed passionately, long and deep. I stood frozen, watching their surging love. When Lee Ryan looked up, she finally noticed me standing nearby. I dragged my luggage forward with difficulty, just a few steps away, yet separated by 1,000 mountains and rivers. Her first instinct was to shield the youth behind her. The youth looked puzzled, leaning down to whisper in her ear, asking who I was. I didn't know what expression to make. Standing before them, I said calmly, "I'm her husband." The youth went in, stepped boldly in front of Lee Ryan, protectively saying it was his fault, telling me not to blame her. I gave a bitter laugh, looking at the conflicted woman behind him. Don't you have something to say? Lee Ryan pressed her lips together. Her gaze hardened, as if she'd made a decision. She stepped forward, standing side by side with the youth, holding his hand. Their fingers interlocked. She told me it was exactly as I saw. Perhaps the snowstorm was too fierce. My mind went numb from the cold. I didn't question her. I didn't argue. I quietly turned and went home. Lee Ryan didn't follow. The balcony window at home was wide open. Cold wind rushed in. I could even imagine Lee Ryan getting a call, opening the window to see the youth standing below, her face lit with surprise and joy. An easel nearby hadn't been put away. An unfinished painting caught my eye. The subject was clearly that youth. He held roses, his beauty dancing in the wind, his face shy with the blush of meeting a lover. Once Lee Ryan had painted me with such care. I met her at 16 in high school. Back then she was famous, a wealthy heiress, a top student and school beauty adorned with every halo. I came from the countryside, from the mud worlds apart. We should never have crossed paths, yet somehow we became desk mates. My English was poor. My Mandarin carried a rural accent. Classmates often mocked me. She stood up for me and patiently taught me. Her words always carried a smile, a slight curve of her lips, like 1,000 blooming trees. I secretly loved her for 3 years, never daring to hope that she might like me too. After the college entrance exam, she didn't choose Kinghua as everyone expected. Instead, she picked an art academy. She said painting was her lifelong dream. Her family supported her with the means to indulge her whims. But I had no such luxury. With my grades at the time, my best choice was a school in the south, 1,000 miles away from her that summer. She came to my small mountain village to sketch, asking me to be her guide. We watched the flowers on the hillside, the birds in the forest, the clouds in the sky. On the last day, my mother brought out homemade plum wine for her to taste. I couldn't stop her. One glass and she was drunk, unable to tell north from south. She collapsed into my arms, her face flushed, mumbling drunken words. She said, "Fang Yuan, I like you." I helped her pack her things, finding my name in every page of her sketchbook. I walked her to the station, moving slowly along the way, wanting to ask if her words last night counted. Finally, I couldn't hold back. "Lee Ryan, if I confess now, is it too late?" She looked at me, tears of joy in her eyes, saying, "It's not too late. As long as it's you, it's never too late." We were together through 4 years of long-distance college love. I gave her all my love and security, letting her know clearly she was the one I cherished. She often teased me recklessly, "Fang Yuan, you love me so much." I let her tease. When she was done, I'd lower my head and gently kiss her. From 18 to 28, we loved each other for 10 years. Countless yesterdays roared through my mind. My suppressed emotions finally erupted. I broke down, smashing the painting to pieces. I sat alone on the sofa until dawn. When Lee Ryan returned, she carried a stranger's scent, like the smell of hotel shower gel. Seeing me, her eyes held a trace of guilt, saying sorry. My eyes were bloodshot, my voice hoarse when I spoke. "When did it start?" She was candid, telling me their story. The boy was G. Boder, a senior at the art academy, also a painter. Last year, she met him at her alma mater's anniversary. He admired her talent, her loyal and passionate devotee. Their souls were in harmony, often reminiscing about Van Gogh under the stars. Talking of Monet's Water Lily by the Lake, she said they were rare confidants and true lovers. We had 10 years together, yet it couldn't match their 10 months. When Lee Ryan spoke of him, her gaze was soft, her expression tender. She stressed many times that she truly loved him. I went mad with rage. A college student meddling in someone's marriage. What kind of person could he be? Wasn't he just after money? Lee Ryan looked at me, her eyes growing colder. "Fang Yuan, he's not like you with only money in your eyes." Her words stabbed deep into my heart. Lee Ryan was a born romantic, always viewing money with disdain. In college, she was already a modestly famous painter. Many offered high prices for her work. She refused them all. Her paintings were only for those fated to have them. But fate is unpredictable. The year she graduated, her family went bankrupt. Her parents died in a car accident while fleeing creditors. Debt collectors cornered her at home. I climbed over the wall to find her. Holding her, I said, "Lee Ryan, marry me." I had no status or wealth, no vast fortune, but I had a steadfast heart. I consulted a lawyer. A child isn't liable for their parents' debt, but the creditors were relentless. Their endless harassment could ruin Lee Ryan's life. With my mother's consent, I took out all our family's savings, raised money, and negotiated, clearing Lee Ryan's debts at the smallest cost. After marriage, our days were hard. The rented room leaked wind and rain. During typhoons, it turned into a small pond. In winter, the cold pierced through, keeping us awake. We held each other tightly, talking all night. Lee Ryan tried to find those who once wanted her paintings, but received only humiliation. Her past pride had offended people. Now, desperate for money, she hit walls everywhere. It pained me deeply. I forbade her from selling her paintings to make her life more comfortable. I worked 3 jobs daily earning 100 yuan, spending 99 on her. Once anemia caused me to briefly lose my sight for minutes. She cared for me in a panic, her voice trembling as she called my name. She cried uncontrollably before me, saying she'd regret for life if she didn't marry me. But marrying me had dragged me down. This made me feel even more despair. I scolded her, calling her a fool. I never saw you as a burden. Back then, I felt so happy. Let's divorce. Li Ryan's words pulled me back to reality. Her tone resolute, saying she'd agree to anything I wanted. My heart twisted into a knot. Don't you know what I want? She didn't understand, only said to name my terms. I laughed aloud. Would you really give up everything for him? Li Ryan lowered her gaze, dropping a bombshell Fang Yuan. In carrying his child, my heart shattered into pieces. I remembered we once had a child too. In our 2nd year of marriage, Li Ryan was pregnant. I was overjoyed, but she secretly aborted it. Tearfully, she told me, Fang Yuan, our conditions can't support a child. Don't let him suffer in this world. Li Ryan said sorry to me, over and over. I held her, forcing a smile, comforting her, saying it's okay. We'd have another child later. That day she held me tightly, whispering in my ear, I love you. Those words were like a spell. In our penniless days, binding our hearts together. From then on, I worked even harder. I was good at reading people, gradually thriving in the workplace. My boss dealt in import-export trade, often entertaining clients. My tolerance for alcohol was strong. He liked bringing me along and gave me extra bonuses. I'd come home vomiting, the world spinning. Li Ryan stayed by my side all night, tending to me with care. She always said not to ruin my health for small money. I brushed it off, saying we needed to think long-term. Over time, I built a network of contacts. Later, I started my own wine business, traveling and entertaining daily, busy to the point of exhaustion. Li Ryan said money was enough, telling me not to work so hard. But I had dreams I had to fulfill. I always believed Li Ryan's future held a sea of stars. I wanted her to paint freely, not abandoning her lifelong passion for mundane worries. I also hoped our lost child could return to us soon. Heaven rewards the diligent. Our lives truly got better bit by bit. In our 5th year of marriage, we had a house and savings. I finally mustered the courage to say, darling, let's have a child. But her enthusiasm was low. She only said, Fang Yuan, now's not the time. She told me she'd hit a bottleneck. Hadn't painted anything satisfying in a long time. I tried to comfort her, saying her paintings were great. My friends all loved them. Boss Zhang, moving to a new house next month, said he wanted to buy her painting for decoration. Li Ryan scoffed, saying those vulgar people knew nothing of art. I was stunned, feeling I'd misspoken. She immediately apologized, explaining she didn't look down on businessmen, just wanted recognition from professionals. She buried her face in my shoulder, saying she was losing confidence. Perhaps even then, cracks had appeared in our relationship, but I was too busy to notice her changes. Not long after, Li Ryan's mood began to improve. Her face often carried a smile. I thought she'd broken through her bottleneck, not realizing her soul had found a new home. The youth she loved was in his prime, and touched by the dust of time. She'd describe his portrait as spring flowers, summer rain, autumn wind, winter snow, the most beautiful existence in the world. While I weighed down by burdens, tainted with the rust of money, couldn't resonate with her. Fang Yuan, I'm sorry. Li Ryan's voice echoed in my ears. I was silent for a long time, as long as the years we'd shared, but still unwilling to let go. I won't divorce you, I heard myself say. Li Ryan coldly replied, that's not up to you. In that moment, I heard the sound of our love dying. When things were tensest between Li Ryan and me, my mother fell ill and was hospitalized. The doctor said it was late-stage cancer. My father died early. My mother had suffered all her life. When I married, I was too busy to care for her. She insisted on living alone in the countryside, not wanting to trouble us. Later, when our finances improved, I had no time to be with her. I felt deep guilt, never having given her a single day of comfort. She lay in the hospital bed, tearfully asking where Yanyan was. I forced a smile, cheerfully saying she was busy lately, preparing for an exhibition. I told my mother, Lee Ryan had earned the admiration of the art world's titan, Master Zhou Yi, and was about to make it big. She smiled with relief, saying Yanyan had finally achieved her wish. Our lives would surely get better. Mother was at ease. I made up an excuse to rush out of the ward, tears streaming uncontrollably. Fate loved to play tricks on me. Not long after our fight, Lee Ryan got news from France. The reclusive Master Zhou suddenly expressed interest in her paintings. I wanted to meet him in person. A fine steed remains loyal to its discoverer. We talked with such ease and joy, regretting that we hadn't met sooner. Lee Ryan saw that boy as her lucky star. She said he helped her rediscover her passion for painting, which led to this opportunity. She would never know that I had poured my heart into securing this chance for her, only to end up paving the way for someone else. I washed my face and returned to the hospital ward. My mother suddenly said she wanted to see Lee Ryan. I couldn't refuse her, so I reached out to her myself. Perhaps it was pride at work. I didn't want to show weakness in front of her. My opening words carried the tone of a negotiation. Lee Ryan, let's make a deal. Il agreed to the divorce. If you play along with me for one act. She agreed without hesitation. It was the answer I wanted. Yet my heart twisted again. Disappointment and anger surged within me. Sadness and negative emotions swarmed like countless venomous insects, devouring me bit by bit. I thought I might be going mad. Lee Ryan arrived as promised. After half a month apart, she looked even more radiant and graceful, her beauty striking and vivid. Clearly she was doing well. We both restrained our expressions, pretending to be close as we entered the ward. My mother lay there frail and breathless. Her cloudy eyes lit up the moment she saw us. She propped herself up to talk with us. She urged me to cherish my wife and never let her down. Then she told Lee Ryan to live well with me. My mother was never one for many words, but this time she seemed to have endless things to say. I knew she was simply worried about Lee Ryan's instructions. I answered each one carefully. Finally, my mother placed our hands together, telling us to live well. In this lifetime, I couldn't help but tear up. I wanted to tell her, if she left, I'd have no family left in this world. But the words stuck in my throat, unable to come out. Lee Ryan naturally patted my back. Her gentle gaze reminded me so much of the 18-year-old girl from years ago. I felt a fleeting daze. Outside the ward, our hands remained clasped. I shamefully realized I still craved the faint warmth of her palm. Can we not divorce? The absurd thought swirled in my mind. My phone's ringtone suddenly broke the silence. Lee Ryan let go of my hand. I looked at her lost. The shadow of that young girl flickered and vanished. She stepped aside to take the call. Fragments of her soft words drifted to my ears. Ordinary, everyday conversation. I didn't catch what the other side said, but she blushed, scolding playfully for being shameless. Then said tenderly she'd be home soon. Watching this woman, I suddenly felt she was a stranger. After the call, she saw my dazed expression. Frowning, she asked if I looked ill. Was I sick? Her hand reached to touch my forehead. I instinctively pulled away. Both of us froze for a moment. Her hand hung awkwardly in the air. She said we could delay the divorce until my mother's health improved. My sinking consciousness finally cleared. I nodded and said okay. My mother's condition didn't improve. Her memory began to fail. Every so often she'd ask to see Lee Ryan. She and I put on an act for 3 months, listening to those repeated instructions. Each time Lee Ryan came to the hospital, Bodo would call incessantly. Later he simply started coming along. The day they appeared hand in hand, I lost my temper. I blocked their path, telling him to get lost. Lee Ryan explained he'd wait nearby, so my mother wouldn't see, but I wouldn't budge. I mocked her for flaunting their love. The boy, silent until then, suddenly stepped forward, angrily asking if I was going too far. We were getting divorced, so stop finding ways to torment her. He grew more heated. nearly coming to blows with me. He said she was so busy with the exhibition she barely ate. He came because he was worried. Lee Ryan took his hand, soothing him gently not to get upset. It might scare our child. G. Boda glared at me, lowering his eyes, saying he felt sorry for her. Their loving display left me seething with bitterness. I sneered, saying we weren't divorced yet. Their affair was cheating, didn't they know? Or perhaps he was just renting her services. Lee Ryan froze. Tears welled in her eyes. Fang Yuan, have you gone mad? G. Boda gritted his teeth, glaring at me, saying a grown man shouldn't speak so viciously. No wonder your wife doesn't want you. I couldn't hold back anymore. I told him to choose Tade, leave with me or stay with her. He could only pick one. Then he turned to the woman beside him, his gaze earnest, the choice obvious. Lee Ryan and her lover left hand in hand. That day my mother was actually doing well. I lied, saying Lee Ryan had an emergency. She didn't press further. But by evening, she suddenly fell unconscious. The doctor issued a critical condition notice. When she came to, she asked for Lee Ryan again. I frantically called her in a panic. She took a long time to answer. I crouched, clutching my head, asking if she could come. She said it was too late. I panicked, saying my mother was dying. Her tone grew impatient, telling me not to joke like that. I was shocked and furious. Did she think I'd joke about my mother's life? She was silent for a moment, saying it was raining tonight. She was pregnant. He wouldn't let her go out. My stubborn pride crumbled. I pleaded, asking her to let him drive her, or I'd send a friend to pick her up safely. For the sake of our 10 years together, please help me one last time. She sighed, saying she'd talk to him. I clung to a sliver of hope, babbling that I was wrong to fight today. If she came tonight, I'd agree to anything they wanted. Thunder and lightning roared outside, burying the sound of my shattered pride in the dark. A low, elegant voice came through the phone, tinged with a hint of intimacy. Lee Ryan let out an awkward hum, telling him not to tease as the call abruptly ended. I tried calling again, but no one answered. She didn't show up that night. My mother sensed something, asking cautiously if Yanyan and I had fought. I forced a relaxed smile, saying no. She was on her way, her brow furrowed tighter. She told me to call her. She wanted to speak with Lee Ryan, but her phone was off. Later, my mother's consciousness began to fade. She mumbled that if I wasn't doing well, how could she rest in peace? At dawn, she took her last breath. Her hand gripped mine tightly, eyes refusing to close. My world turned to ruins. I took my mother's ashes back to the countryside for burial. Lee Ryan came, her head bowed, her face full of guilt, saying sorry. She didn't know that night was real. I asked her to leave, saying she didn't deserve to call her mother Fang Yuan. Can't you speak kindly? Lee Ryan's voice softened. She just wanted to see if I needed help. I replied coldly that I didn't. She wouldn't leave, lingering by my side. The funeral was simple. Only a few village neighbors helped. When it was over and everyone left, I finally calmed down. I told Lee Ryan we should talk. She nodded, saying okay. I said coldly to hurry up with the divorce. She frowned, changing the subject. She wanted to explain that night. I didn't want to hear it. I cut her off, saying she was the one at fault. I wanted her to leave with nothing. I knew all our assets. Don't play tricks, or try to negotiate, or I'd make their scandal public. Lee Ryan's eyes were filled with sorrow. Fang Yuan, the assets were yours to begin with. Did I ever fight you for them? I sneered. You can know a face, but not a heart. She looked disappointed, saying I wasn't like this before. People change, I said. The old Lee Ryan wouldn't have treated me this way. A long silence was broken by a phone call. It was G. Boder. She stepped outside to answer. I shut the door behind her. She didn't come back. That night I lay in the old house's bed, dreaming a long dream. I saw myself at 22, bringing Lee Ryan home despite everything, telling my mother I wanted to marry her. Creditors hounded us, shouting daily. My mother hid her in the room, telling Yanyan not to go out, leaving everything to me. I dealt with them alone for months, finally settling it before the new year. On New Year's Eve it snowed. I dragged my exhausted body back from out of town. Snowflakes piled on me layer after layer, but I didn't feel cold. The moment I reached home, she opened the door first, rushing into my arms. I stumbled slightly, but caught her firmly. Let's never be apart again. Lee Ryan's crying and laughing was utterly charming. I opened my mouth to recall, but the scene spun wildly. I stood dazed to one side, watching her rush into another's arms in the snow, then kiss his lips deeply. I called out to Lee Ryan endlessly, but she couldn't hear me. Everything went black. A strong sense of weightlessness hit me, like falling endlessly into an abyss. I woke the next day with a high fever, my mind clouded and chaotic. I lay at home for 2 days, feeling like I was freezing to death. One day a business partner messaged me. There was a problem with the wine supply. I'd lost a fortune. I forced myself up, quickly dressed and went out. Then saw a doctor, took medicine and recovered. These 4 months drained too much of my energy. My business was riddled with mistakes. I was so busy I had no time to grieve. The next time I heard Lee Ryan's name, it was news of her exhibition's massive success. The famously critical art titan Master Joe praised her highly, calling her a pearl long hidden in dust. The reclusive old man even appeared publicly at her exhibition, declaring openly that Lee Ryan was the most talented young female painter had ever seen in his life. The art world was shaken. Media flocked to her. Online reports flooded everywhere. Her striking appearance, amplified by her beauty, pushed her fame beyond that of pop stars. Goddess painter. Lee Ryan's name topped trending searches. All her works sold out. Someone even offered $10 million for the exhibition's centerpiece muse. Lee Ryan refused. Reporters sensed gossip, asking who the man in her painting was. She openly declared her love. My college roommate Joe Huai forwarded me the video, asking why Lee Ryan would say that. Clutching the divorce papers I'd just received, I replied it was nothing. She fell in love with someone else. We were getting divorced. Joe Huai called me directly, angrily saying things were fine for months ago. Didn't she know how much I'd suffered for her in France? I said calmly it wouldn't change anything even if she knew. On our 6th wedding anniversary, I wanted to prepare a special gift for Lee Ryan. I knew her greatest idol was a painter named Joe. This old master rarely appeared in public even in his youth. Now he was a recluse, his whereabouts untraceable. I used every connection I had to get a lead, true or false. Someone had seen him at a street art stall in Paris Marais district, so I used a business trip as an excuse and went to France alone. It was my first time abroad, unfamiliar with the place. My luggage was stolen on the first day. I chased after the thief, but was lured into a secluded alley where a gang of street thugs waited. Outnumbered, I was beaten to the ground. Before losing consciousness, I heard someone shout in French, and the thugs fled in a hurry. I woke up in a hospital with only minor injuries. Joe Huang had saved me. He was my college roommate, had gone abroad a year after my marriage, and we'd gradually lost touch. I never expected to reunite like this. He helped me immensely, caring for me while I was injured. He asked if I'd tell Lee Ryan. I shook my head. During that time, Lee Ryan often locked herself in her studio, seemingly at a critical point. I didn't want her to worry. Once my injuries healed a bit, I rushed out, going to the Marais daily to wait. I had no certainty of finding Master Joe, but I didn't want to give up any chance. When Joe Huai learned the purpose of my trip, his eyes widened, looking at me like I was a fool. Then he mocked me exaggeratedly, saying I spoiled my wife too much. If I spoiled her too far, I'd regret it. I rolled my eyes, saying I was happy too. We bickered like we were back in college. In the Marais, I made a deal with a street vendor, renting his art stall. One chose several of Lee Ryan's works from different periods, displaying them prominently, praying daily for Lady Luck to smile. It was winter then. Every moment outside of sleep I spent in the cold street wines. My ears got frostbite. Joe Huai bought medicine while grumbling, saying I was asking for trouble. After 3 weeks in France, Valentine's Day neared. I planned to return home. This impulsive trip abroad hadn't found him as expected. I thought I'd act again with better leads. But the unexpected happened quietly. On my last day, as I packed up the stall, Master Joe appeared and took an immediate liking to Lee Ryan's work. From when she was 18, he smiled, asking who the artist was. I proudly said Lee Ryan's name. He pointed to the not for sale label on the painting and asked if it wasn't for sale. I nodded, saying it was my personal treasure. This painting was my cherished keepsake, a memory of her at 18, when her talent first bloomed. He smiled, intrigued by her work, asking if he could meet the artist. I could hardly believe my luck. The chance I'd fought so hard for had finally come to pass. Why display it then? I said I wanted more people to see this remarkable painter. Her talent deserved to be known. He seemed deep in thought, gazing at the painting for a long time, before leaving with a smile. I knew this man's reputation, famously discerning and wealthy, had discovered many unknown artists in the past. Now all giants in the art world. One newly Ryan's chance had come. Things went smoother than I'd imagined. I thought to myself, a talented soul is destined to break through the clouds. I was genuinely happy for Lee Ryan. She was one step closer to her dream. On our wedding anniversary, I lied to Lee Ryan, saying I couldn't return from France, hoping to surprise her. But her reaction was tepid. She only said she understood. At first I felt a pang of sadness, but as I boarded the plane, I saw her post on social media. Longing spans mountains and seas. The knot in my heart instantly dissolved. On the journey back, I dreamed of our bright future together. How ironic that her longing was already for someone else. Don't you feel unwilling to let go? Zhou Huai asked me. I was calm. Of course I did. But now what mattered more was living my own life well. He sighed in relief, saying, Feng Yuan, sometimes your rationality is terrifying. I smiled, saying thanks for the compliment. After hanging up, the world around me grew quiet. I replayed that video. Lee Ryan smiled gently and lovingly before the camera. She said that boy was the love of her life. Sure enough, my heart still ached. I called Lee Ryan and told her the exhibition earnings counted as marital property. If we divorced, they'd be mine too. She mocked me once but agreed, clearly eager to marry her true love. I tried to see that trip to France as an investment, now reaping great wealth. It wasn't a total loss. Thinking this way, I slowly made peace with myself. Money truly was a good thing. That night I opened my finest bottle of wine, drinking late into the night. The next morning a call woke me. Zhou Hui's voice faded in and out. I stumbled to open the door, seeing him with luggage, his face grim. You didn't tell me about something this big. That's not what friends do. I stood stunned. He spread his arms, grinning, saying he was here for me. I hugged him, moved, saying he was a true brother. But I was touched too soon. For a man facing divorce, a friend in love was like poison. That night I waited for him to game together. He lingered endlessly, reluctantly ending a video call with his girlfriend. I grabbed his neck in mock anger, saying it was too much to flaunt his love in front of me. He grinned shamelessly, calling it fighting poison with poison. I actually admired him, hurt so deeply once, yet still living so freely. Did you ever regret loving Zhou Yun? The moment I asked, I regretted it. Hearing her name, Zhou Huai showed little emotion, saying a relationship's unhappy ending doesn't make it a tragedy. I thought deeply about his words. I shouldn't resent the 18-year-old Lee Ryan because of the 28-year-old her. That girl who stunned time itself was simply gone. I would accept it and slowly let go. A month later, Lee Ryan and I got our divorce certificate. I bought a vineyard in Montmartre, Paris, planning to learn winemaking in France. Zhou Huai had settled there already, welcoming me warmly. The day I left the country, Lee Ryan and Ji Boda held a grand wedding. The bride wore a custom-designed gown, draped in dazzling jewels. I remembered our own wedding. We were so poor then. Her wedding dress was a 1200 yuan white skirt. Her bouquet a cotton rose picked by the roadside. Simple and plain like our love back then. The past drifted away with the wind. Clouds scattered. Things remained, but people changed. I boarded the plane heading toward a new life. My days gradually grew calm. I thought I'd never cross paths with Lee Ryan again. But a year later, returning to my hometown to visit graves, I met her once more. Lee Ryan stood before my mother's grave holding white chrysanthemums. Seeing me, a flash of surprise crossed her face. She called my name, her voice hoarse. I asked coldly what she was doing there. She stepped closer, saying eagerly she hoped to see me. "You sold the house, changed your number. I couldn't find you anywhere." I kept my distance, asking coldly if she had business. The mountain breeze stirred fine sand. Perhaps it got in her eyes. They began to redden slightly. She just wanted to talk to me. I laughed as if it were a grand joke. "Lee Ryan, you have a husband now. Leave, don't linger before my parents' graves." She didn't seem to hear. Standing still, I couldn't drive her away. She simply ignored me. She wanted to explain what happened the night my mother died. Lee Ryan kept talking, not caring if I wanted to listen. I meant to go out that night, but he stopped me and I accidentally stirred the baby. I brushed her off with a curt reply. She lowered her head, her voice heavy with pain, saying, "Fang Yuan, I lost the baby." My hand arranging offerings paused slightly. Still, I said nothing to her. After paying my respects, she suddenly spoke again, asking if I'd hate her less if she had come that night. I looked up, meeting her eyes. The sadness in them was clear. I didn't understand why she showed such an expression now. What was the point? I quickly looked away, pretending I saw nothing. I burned 3 sticks of incense for my father and mother, telling them how well I was doing, assuring them my life was good now. After paying respects, I descended the mountain. Lee Ryan followed me. Her words became endless. She said we used to watch together in the village. The flowers on the hillside, the birds in the forest, the clouds in the sky. She remembered everything. But Lee Ryan, the hillside flowers no longer bloomed. The forest birds had flown away. Even the clouds had changed shape. Everything was different now. The old house intended was uninhabitable. I stayed one night in a town guest house, then flew back to France. Meeting Lee Ryan again didn't stir much in my heart. By chance, Joe Huai had started his own fashion design brand, becoming busier. My vineyard had staff, leaving me plenty of free time, so I spent my days helping in his studio. I joked that to trade majors, we're now a tailor and a winemaker, truly straying from our paths. He wagged his finger, saying, "No, no, no. Life is about gradually seeing yourself clearly." During a chat, I asked him when he became interested in fashion design. He hesitated for a moment, saying softly it was when Lee Ryan and I got married. He said there was something I didn't know. Did I remember the wedding outfits we wore? Exquisite patterns, yet so affordable. I always thought had pulled strings with friends. I nodded. He continued, saying Lee Ryan couldn't bear to spend much, buying only the simplest white dress and suit, but not wanting me to feel she was shortchanged. She drew the designs herself, consulted his designer friend, and embroidered the patterns bit by bit. Even the veil was her own work. I didn't know she could sew. She didn't at first, but his friend was skilled, and she was clever, learning in just a few days. She feared I'd feel guilty, and told him not to tell me. He said he only helped with the work, but seeing us wear them filled him with a sense of accomplishment. Our thoughts drifted back to that day. He recalled the wedding. When I lifted Lee Ryan's veil, he saw my face move to tears. I still remember it. My heart swirled with mixed emotions. She truly loved me back then. Joe Huai thought for a moment, then said had seen Lee Ryan a few days ago. I didn't react much, saying calmly that Paris was the art capital. She was a painter. It was normal for her to be here. He shook his head, saying he thought she was looking for me. That night I left something at his place. He chased after me and saw her following me from a distance, watching without approaching. I joked, maybe had mistaken someone else. Joe Huai snapped, saying he wasn't blind. He even spoke with her briefly. He deliberately told her about my trip to Paris to find Master Joe, saying we couldn't do good deeds without credit. I remembered that effort, giving him a thumbs up. Joe Huai sighed, saying she froze when she heard, looking utterly lost, almost pitiable. I paused, saying it no longer concerned me. A capable girl had joined my vineyard, taking excellent care of my grapes. Thanks to her, The new wine was of high quality, securing a big order. By chance, the client hosting the banquet invited art world elites. Lee Ryan was among them. When I delivered the wine, I saw her with G. Boder. Their state was odd. They spoke little, unlike newlyweds. I didn't linger, signed the order and left. Lee Ryan saw me and followed. G. Boda barely reacted. I walked quickly, but Lee Ryan ran to catch my hand. The moment our skin touched, she quickly let go, saying, "Sorry, Lee Ryan. What do you want Fang Yuan?" She stammered. I lost patience. She seemed to suddenly think of something. Her dull eyes suddenly brightened. She wanted to paint a French landscape. Could I be her guide? Fearing I'd refuse, she added I could name my terms. I said I didn't need money. Her whole demeanor sank, her tone nearly pleading. "Fang Yuan, can you give me a chance to make amends?" I looked at her coldly. Compensate for what? I knew about Master Zhou. I said calmly her talent earned his recognition, and I took her money. We owed each other nothing. Lee Ryan lowered her head, her voice breaking. "Why didn't you tell me back then, Fang Yuan? Would it have made a difference if I had?" The sadness in her eyes was stark. Stubbornly she said, "Maybe agenda, maybe we wouldn't have ended up like this." I felt only irony. Lee Ryan, wake up. After all these years together, all the foolish things I did for you, when your heart was no longer mine, what I said or did was in vain. I don't care for your fleeting remorse. Maybe I once dreamed of such a scene, the unfaithful one repenting, but when it came to this moment, I felt no satisfaction. That breathtaking girl of yesteryears, how did she become this way? I paused, saying seriously, "Lee Ryan, stop making excuses for yourself, or I'll look down on you." Her body stiffened, her face etched with pain. "Walk the path you choose." I turned and left without looking back. That night Zhou Huai worked late. He asked me to grab some late-night snacks. It was dark outside. His studio was in a remote area. Two streetlights along the way were broken. The path was dim and silent. Two knife-wielding men suddenly jumped out, fiercely robbing me of everything I had. I didn't have much money. They rummaged through my bag, yelling harsh words in broken French. I barely understood them. They swung their fists at me. I fought back in a frenzy. A figure suddenly rushed forward, smashing a thug's head with a rock. The knife-wielding thug lunged wildly, stabbing the figure twice, before fleeing in panic. It all happened so fast. When I came to my senses, Lee Ryan lay bleeding on the ground. I rushed her to the hospital. The doctor said her abdomen was stabbed. No vital organs were hit, but her right hand's tendons were severed. She might never paint again. She lay pale on the hospital bed. Seeing me, her first concern was whether I was injured. I shook my head, my brows furrowed tightly. She smiled, comforting me not to worry. Her injuries weren't severe. I wrestled with myself for a long time, then told her the truth. Lee Ryan's smile froze for a moment. Then she forced a bright expression, saying it was fine, as long as I was okay. But she was no good actress. She turned away, hiding her face, her body trembling. I tried to comfort her. The doctors didn't say there was no hope. Even if her right hand failed, she could try her left. There would be a way. She suddenly turned to me, her red eyes asking Fang Yuan if I divorced G. Boder. I cut her off, saying bluntly there was no us anymore. Lee Ryan, focus on recovering. Don't think of anything else. The despair in her eyes was unmistakable. Tears welled as she pleaded humbly. At least tonight can you stay? I said calmly the one who should be by her side was G. Boda, not me. But G. Boda didn't show up that night. I couldn't bring myself to leave. During her surgery, I called G. Boda from her phone, but no one answered. I texted him later, with no reply. In the middle of the night, she developed a low fever. There was bleeding and doctors checked again. They said she had stomach cancer, not yet advanced. With active treatment, there was hope of recovery. I couldn't understand why, with money and success, she'd let herself waste away like this. But I asked nothing. The next afternoon, G. Boda arrived, dressed impeccably, radiating confidence. He pestered the doctors, asking only if her hand could paint again, not even noticing me. I said goodbye to Lee Ryan, telling her to focus on healing. She lay silent on the bed, her gaze lifeless. After losing the use of her right hand for painting, Lee Ryan faced a devastating blow. Her identity as a painter shattered. I left the hospital room, my heart heavy but resolute. The past was gone. I had to move forward, no matter how much it hurt. I drove back to the vineyard, the sunset painting the sky in hues of loss. I sat alone with a bottle of wine, toasting to the end of a chapter. Lee Ryan's name lingered in my mind, a fading echo of what once was. The value of all her works soared instead. Her fame came from that iconic piece. The news of Muse's public auction sparked immediate buzz, igniting fervent discussions. Not long after Lee Ryan professed her love at the exhibition, she married the man in the painting, a story once celebrated online as a romantic tale. This painting tied to that love story became even more priceless. In the end, a collector bought it for an astronomical $50 million. But just days later, the matter took an unexpected turn. Boda sold a fake painting. Lee Ryan's infidelity during marriage. Both terms shot to the top of trending searches. Lee Ryan held a press conference, publicly stating the original Muse had long been destroyed. The sold work was a forged imitation. Before the cameras, she admitted, the romantic tale behind Muse was actually an ugly affair. In her moment of success, she abandoned her husband of 10 years. The internet erupted in outrage. People began cursing her as a vile woman and him as a despicable man. Due to Lee Ryan's accusations, the police investigated the fake painting sale, and soon after, Boda was arrested, charged with producing and selling counterfeit goods. Due to the enormous sum involved, he faced life imprisonment. After that, Lee Ryan vanished from the public eye. My life flowed like a serene feast, stars twinkling at the treetops, carefree and at peace. Time passed quietly. The winery's business flourished day by day. Half a year later, I met an odd customer, a 16-year-old French girl, coming every few days to buy wine, insisting it be my personally brewed vintage. With a peculiar request, she asked me to teach her Chinese, one sentence at a time. She'd carefully record my words with a pen recorder. Sometimes simple greetings, like good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Other times different phrases. On Valentine's Day, she came to buy wine again, asking me to say I love you. By then, I was in a new relationship with the girl who cared so well for my vineyard. After recording I love you as requested, she suddenly leaned in, whispering she loved me too. I fondly patted her head, turning to apologize to my girlfriend, saying one extra phrase wouldn't hurt. My girlfriend looked conflicted, but said nothing in the end, taking the wine and leaving. That night I got a call from an unknown number. The other side stayed silent, just a long endless quiet. I thought it was a wrong number. As my girlfriend called me to dinner, I hung up. After that, the girl never returned to my vineyard. Lee Ryan's name resurfaced in the public eye. Not long after Valentine's Day, I stared at the trending headline, Lee Ryan's death. Stunned for a long time, the news said her body was found in a French alley, heavily matted, discovered by passers-by, ravaged by illness, destitute and impoverished. Her only possession was a painting called Beloved, depicting a couple in wedding attire, the bride in a white dress, holding a bouquet of cotton roses, the groom gently embracing her, both their faces veiled, blurred and indistinct. Art experts praised it as Lee Ryan's finest work, while netizens speculated whether she was mourning a past lover or had found a new soulmate. I gazed at the bride's bouquet, my memory drifting back to the year I married Lee Ryan. The cotton roses bloomed unusually early. I picked some, tying them into a bouquet with ribbon. She asked why not roses. I smiled mysteriously, saying I loved the meaning of cotton roses. Extra Lee Ryan's perspective. I married the boy I fell for at first sight in my youth. We vowed to stay together forever. Though our married life was poor, it was still sweet. When did things start going wrong? Looking back now, it must have been when we lost our first child. That was the first time I felt life's helplessness so deeply. After that, he worked harder than ever, calculating every penny. his mind and eyes filled with money. My paintings wouldn't sell, so he found another way, using his connections to get me commercial commissions, like childhood essay assignments. Just paint to the client's demands. Each piece lacked my soul or thought, only aiming to satisfy the beer. I didn't like it, but it was an opportunity he fought for, so I had to cherish it. Our life did get better bit by bit. I thought enough money was enough, but he was never satisfied, always running himself ragged, too busy to even talk to me much. He introduced me to his business friends, skillfully toasting them, asking the bosses to support us. Out of courtesy, they'd buy my paintings for high prices, then tease that Miss Lee married a good husband. Honestly, I hated his subservient demeanor. I felt more and more suffocated, even growing to loathe my own paintings. Then I met Gbodo. He stayed quietly by my side, watching me paint just like Fang Yuan years ago. He understood and appreciated my art, not just caring if it sold well. My bleak days suddenly gained a spark of color. I gradually rediscovered my vitality and love for painting. I admit I couldn't help falling for him. I thought this pure untainted boy was my destined love, and that Fang Yuan and I were a mistake from the start. On our 6th wedding anniversary, Fang Yuan discovered our affair. I made my decision. Leaving Fang Yuan felt liberating. What surprised me more was that my idol Master Zhou Yi contacted me himself, wanting to meet. He told me he saw my painting at a street stall in France and admired my talent. That painting depicted a simple mountain village with a boy standing on a hillside, only his back visible, yet vividly alive. It was my work from when I was 18, given to Fang Yuan. He cherished it like a treasure then, but must have sold it for money in hard times. That's just how he was. Money mattered more than feelings. It didn't matter. We were about to divorce anyway. With Master Zhao's endorsement, I successfully held my exhibition. I achieved success, though Fang Yuan left me with nothing. For me now, earning money was effortless. I held a grand wedding with my love. I thought this was the life I wanted, but things slowly turned strange. I frequently dreamed of Fang Yuan, sometimes waking in the night. Seeing the man beside me felt unreal, my heart empty. I threw myself into painting, locking myself in the studio all day. I used to do this often. Fang Yuan would prepare my meals, even on business trips, had called to make sure I ate and slept. But Gbodo didn't care about these things. After marriage, he rarely discussed art with me. If I complained, he'd slam the door and leave. I couldn't stop missing Fang Yuan. Eating at fancy restaurants with Gbodo, I'd recall when Fang Yuan and I huddled in our rented room, sharing a single meat bun, buying Gbodo expensive gifts. I'd think of our first anniversary, when Fang Yuan secretly saved for months to buy me a Dior lipstick and an Estee Lauder skincare set. I scolded him for wasting money, while crying with. Then I remembered the divorce. When I said he only cared about money, it hit me like lightning. I impulsively called Fang Yuan, but his number was disconnected. I quietly visited our old home. New owners lived there, seeing a happy family inside. For a moment I wondered if I'd thrown away reachable happiness. I shook my head, banishing the thought. I told myself my choice wasn't wrong. It couldn't be wrong, so I doubled my efforts to be good to Gbodo. But life is ironic. Gbodo cheated. The real him was nothing like I'd imagined. Had sent suggestive photos to another woman at night, calling her his wife Fang Yuan. So this is what betrayal felt like. I was truly awful before. Gbodo threatened me. If I divorced him, he'd ruin me forever. I couldn't fight back. 1 year into marriage, our life was like a tomb. I often returned to Fang Yuan's hometown, no matter where he was. Had come back there and maybe I'd see him. During Qingming, we really met again. He looked well. Rain fell softly, his spirit vibrant. He was thriving without me. At his parents' graves, he mentioned his vineyard in France. I noted it secretly and began flying to France often, just to catch a glimpse of him. Once I met Zhou Huai after years and learned a truth. My success was built on his selfless devotion. He never changed. I was the one who changed. In the passage of time, I forgot our initial love and promises. I had once held such beautiful love, but I lost it. This realization tore my heart apart. I decided to divorce Jiboder. He demanded 10 times what Fang Yuan got. I agreed. It just needed time. We were both invited to a French art exhibition. At the banquet, I saw Fang Yuan. I couldn't help wanting to be near him. That night he was attacked. I rushed to save him without thinking. He took me to the hospital still worried for me. That was enough. If losing a hand could bring Fang Yuan back, I wouldn't complain, but he wouldn't give me that chance. God knows how much I wanted to hold him as he left, but he walked so fast. In that fleeting moment, I couldn't even grasp his sleeve. Was this my retribution? Had met someone 1,000 times better than me, but I'd never find anyone better than him. Back in China, I was sick for a long time. Jiboder never visited once during my hospital stay. Soon after, I heard about the fake painting sold at a high price, but I destroyed that painting. The only explanation was forgery. I confronted Jiboder at home and saw the bodies entangled in our room. Our marriage was even uglier than I'd thought. Jiboder had a longtime girlfriend, addicted to gambling, owing massive loans. He married me only for money. He negotiated with me. My right hand was ruined, no longer a tool for earning. If I stayed silent, we'd split the painting's profits. Jiboder told me he truly loved that girl, but he owed too much. He'd die if he couldn't pay. So he had a heart, just not for me, even risking everything for her. How hateful yet pitiful. I held a press conference. We both had to pay for our actions. The day he was sentenced, we divorced. My assets were already drained by him. I was left with nothing again. I tried painting with my left hand, the quality far from before, but sold on the street for some money. It took half a year to save enough for France. The doctor said my stomach cancer was terminal. I wouldn't live long. If possible, I wanted to die closer to him, near Fang Yuan's vineyard. I rented a rundown farmhouse, next to a kind couple, with a lovely daughter. I often asked her to buy wine from Fang Yuan, recording a phrase each time. I so desperately wanted to hear his voice. His wine was my medicine. In drunken dreams, it let me briefly forget the searing pain. I often saw Fang Yuan in my dreams, in a sharp suit, gazing at me tenderly saying, "Li Ryan, we're married." Waking brought crushing longing. I poured it all into my paintings. Even with just my left hand, I could paint Fang Yuan perfectly, for in my youth, I traced his features countless times. I painted myself beside him, naming the work beloved, but Fang Yuan's eyes stared straight at me, making my heart race with unease. I mocked myself saying money was more reliable than people. I painted veils over our faces with oil, selfishly labeling the painting, "If there's a next life, it'll never let go of your hand." I curled up beside the painting, letting loneliness and despair swallow me. Valentine's Day arrived. My body was at its limit. I knew death was near. At such a time, I could be selfish once. I asked the neighbor's girl to record "I love you," but she said it didn't record. Such a pity. That night, I couldn't resist calling Fang Yuan. What should I say? I wasn't ready to speak, but heard a woman's voice, calling his name with affection. Fang Yuan's reply was laced with fondness. The voice of a man in love, one so familiar to me. I knew I'd truly lost him forever. He hung up the call. I coughed up blood. As my vision faded to black, I saw the bride in the painting lift her veil. Looking at the groom beside her, he held a cotton rose, asking why not roses. He smiled mysteriously, saying he loved the meaning of cotton roses. I suddenly remembered telling Fang Yuan I loved cotton roses most, because their meaning spoke the truth of love. Cherish the person beside you and the happiness before you. My heart ached with realization. The cotton rose in his hand was a vow I'd failed to keep. I'd forgotten its meaning, lost in my pursuit of fleeting passions. Now too late to reclaim. I closed my eyes, hoping in another life, I'd hold him tight and never let go.